welcome to Dealing with Life.
So I grew up in a culture, I came up in the motorcycle club world in a culture that was all about violence.
Hear a story of anger, drug abuse, and darkness.
You know, I was abusive to my wife. I was not a good son, brother, husband, friend, none of those things. The only people that mattered to me then were the other guys in the club.
The darkness continued to grow.
I don't think we had the bar quite a year. I was back on crack. And man, I ran it all into the ground. I lost everything. Lost my girlfriend, Doc Ray, every decent person in my life, and I ended up homeless.
A life that was going nowhere fast.
You know, in fact, in 2006, I went to jail over 30 times. So I was willing to do whatever it took to get high. You know, I wasn't one of those guys that begged for money in front of Walmart. I was one of those guys that hit you in the head and take your purse or your wallet in front of Walmart. I was a ruthless guy.
So speak life, when the sun won't shine and you don't know why. Look into the eyes of the broken hearted. Watch them come alive as soon as you speak hope, you speak love, you speak life.
Hi, and welcome to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith, and we're so glad you stepped on the bus with us. This is a show about hope. This is a show about victory. Dealing with life. We all do it every single day. We all have struggles, we all have challenges, and we have two choices every time we face a challenge. We either embrace it and attempt to learn from it and grow from it and find Christ in the middle of it, or we run and hide and hate the struggle. This is a show that airs every single week. We have guests on here who have struggled, who have been through the ringer, people who have found difficulties in their lives, and they've also found victory and a deepened faith from it. And we've also talked with people who have been called to help others. And sometimes people fit in both of those categories. Well, today's guest has a really powerful story. Jeff Stultz is in with me in the studio today. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Really glad
to be here, Tom.
Yes. Your story is just incredible and so inspiring and uplifting, and I want people to hear your story. You are in North Carolina now.
I am. I live in Fayetteville, North Carolina, just on the outskirts of Fort Bragg.
Okay. All right. Now, where are you from?
Well, I was born in Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Okay.
But I moved to Fort Bragg at an early age. My father was military.
I was going to say there's military in that somewhere. If you got a lot of forts.
Yeah, my dad was military, actually fought in Korea and Vietnam. And
decorated.
So I grew up at Fort Bragg because he would travel around the country or around the world, but we just stayed there.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about you, because I want to break this story into easy. Tell us, growing up, what was life like?
Well, you know, like I said, my father was gone a lot of the time. My mother was a professional, so she was actually out of the home most of the time too. So I was raised by two sisters, and it was tough.
Two older sisters.
Older sisters.
Oh, boy.
And, I was a brat and a tattletale. I was the youngest, the baby of the family, and so I got beat up by my sisters a lot. So,
oh, man.
Sorry, sis.
Yeah, but I'm sure you're close now.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
But, I grew up as a heavy kid, and I was picked on, and I was scared. And it really hurt me. My self-esteem just plummeted.
Okay.
And it was bad. Like I said, I was a heavy kid. I remember I had long greasy hair, and people used to mistake me for a girl. And it was horrible.
Work, yeah.
No, it was horrible.
Yeah.
Really was. So, people would pick on me, and of course I had a big sister, and she would always take up for me. But I kind of, I don't know. It was just really bad. My self-esteem was horrible, and I didn't fit in anywhere until I turned about 13 years old, and I smoked marijuana for the first time and started drinking.
Yeah.
And then, some of the cool kids started to accept
Just
me.
to fit in, yeah.
That's right. And so I did. I found a place where I fit in.
Yeah.
I also got into weightlifting and boxing in high school.
Okay.
And turned the tide.
I'm going to say that probably ended the picking on.
The bullied became the bullied.
Oh,
so
right.
I swung far out of the other side, and so I would pick fights and cause problems with people all the time.
Yeah, and that there's anger in that.
Oh yeah, and that's what it was all behind pain that I still had that I never dealt with.
Wow,
that's
tough. That's tough. And so though, and did you move around, or was this all in one location?
No, we stayed in Fayetteville, North Carolina, most of my life, and I grew up and graduated high school there, and then I went off to work instead of college. I was a smart kid. I actually was accepted to West Point, got a scholarship, but turned it down. I wanted to go right to work.
Okay.
And so I moved to Lenore, North Carolina, up and worked at a furniture factory. But I bought a motorcycle for cheap transportation to work.
Gotcha.
And the guy with the penny loafers started reading Easy Rider magazine. And I was done, man. I wanted to be one of those guys.
Yeah. So bully in high school. Did you have a group of friends that you rolled around with?
I had a small group of friends because I didn't get along with everybody. There were a couple of dynamics that were weird for me in school. One is that I was a bodybuilder.
Okay.
So, and I was a boxer. And so the jock side, the folks, they wanted me to hang out, but I also got high, so I didn't fit in with them.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then the stoners, they wouldn't hang out with me because I was a weightlifter.
Because you were a jock.
So, it was.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, it was really tough. So, I had this small group of friends and I had a beautiful girlfriend in high school, everything that I thought I would never have when I was younger.
Sure.
But still all that anger in me, man. I was such an angry kid.
Wow. That's tough. It's tough to pull through. High school's hard enough.
Oh yeah.
With the social dynamics, and then you add anger into it.
Oh yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, it was horrible. Then at 19 I joined the Army.
So you look for work and then decide to join the Army.
I decided to join the Army.
That was in your blood. That's in your dad.
I want to make my dad proud. Of course, he warned me against it. He knew that I would not like it. And
he knew the struggles ahead of time. Yeah,
that's right. So I joined the Army, and my problem is I carried that alcoholism and drug addiction into the military with me.
Oh, that don't fit.
No, it didn't fit. And of course, back then they didn't do a lot of drug testing and stuff. That was in the early '80s.
I was going to say, what's a time period?
So,
okay.
I went in, and man, the party was on.
Whoa.
In fact, I was probably more into drugs when I joined the Army, but whenever you went to a military function, the first thing there was the beer.
Okay.
And so I really got caught up, in the party lifestyle in the military. And I was military intelligence. So I was with I was with the 319th MI Battalion. I was a 98 Charlie. So I was an electronic warfare signal intel analyst.
Wow.
And I broke codes.
Man.
But
so you were doing the brainy stuff.
I was doing the brainy stuff. Like I said, I was too smart for my own good.
Okay.
Glory to God. I'm brighter than I look, I promise. But I was caught up in the drinking and the drugging, and so all my off hours, that's all I did. And so I was a clown, and I never applied myself, never went where I could have gone.
Yeah, that sounds like my life. There's so much there, and it's like, I'm going to have fun.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's all about me.
Yeah.
It's all about me. I'm going to do what I want to do, no matter what the cost.
I'll get serious later.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
how long were you in the Army?
So I was only in the Army about 2 years. So what happened was after my first year, I was in a bar fight one night, and I got shot in the leg.
Ow.
And when I got shot, man, I was on leave for, I don't know, like 6 months. It was a long time.
Goodness.
And and I just drank the whole time, and I ended up putting on weight again. And so I got real heavy, but now I had this motorcycle.
Yeah.
And so while I was in convalescent leave with the military, I hung out at the biker bars all the time.
So that was off campus. That was
off. Yes. I lived off base, and so I hung out at the biker bars, and again, I didn't fit in with the soldiers. I got up to about 300 pounds, and it was just horrible. Again, I didn't have anywhere to fit in, but these biker bars, these motorcycle clubs would come in.
Okay.
And I realized, man, they accepted anybody, especially violent drug and alcohol abusers like me.
Oh, yeah, that was a place.
So I fit right in there, and I started running with those
and the
guys.
Anger, I'm sure, fit in too.
Oh, yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, in that, that's probably wrong word, but
at the
time, I thought, wow, this is where I fit. This is who I am. drugs, alcohol, violence, man, it's exactly who I was.
Okay.
And, I realized the meaner, nastier, ruthless you were, the higher the level you could become in the club.
The more you were respected.
That's right.
Wow. That's hard. So where did that take you?
Well, I actually ended up, I rose up in the ranks, became the enforcer, they call it, who was like the mean guy that looks out for everything and, exacts vengeance on other clubs.
Whatever you did, then you led the others.
That's right. And then I later became the president of the club. So
and this was in North Carolina still?
This was in North Carolina, yes.
Okay.
So,
wow.
So I spent 15 years as the president of 2 different motorcycle clubs. We, the one that I was in had a falling out with another club, and people were getting killed, shot, and getting it just a lot of violence on violence.
So you say club, this sounds more gang.
Well, in the motorcycle world, they're very the vernacular.
Okay.
The wording is really intentional. And so the reality is it is gang. It is gang.
Okay.
But they call themselves clubs.
Really?
And
Is that to nice it up?
That's to nice it up. You got it, brother.
Okay.
You got it.
So 15 years.
15 years on the fringes of society, man, living a crazy life. I lived all around the country.
And that's my next question is so you guys would travel and just wreak havoc wherever you wanted.
Well, we did. The first club I was in, we had about 14 chapters up and down the East Coast, and so we were around here and there. I actually went AWOL for the Army, and it went from North Carolina out to California. I lived there for a year.
So and now you went AWOL when you were hurt?
I went AWOL after I came back.
After
I got healed, went back to work.
Okay.
I joined a motorcycle club, and in the military took away my security clearance. So I could no longer go in and do the job I was trained to do.
Okay.
Now I had to go to the motor pool and change batteries. And, of course, I didn't play that game. I ran my own show.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't listen to nobody, so I just left. And so I went to California, turned myself in.
That went over well, too.
Oh, yeah. It was, as a military intelligence guy, it's like they classify you as a deserter after 24 hours.
Wow.
And so I was gone for a year and turned myself in out in Fort Ord, California a year later.
And what happened there?
They just give you a discharge. They lock you up for a few days.
Okay, slap your hand.
Yep, make you cut your hair and your beard back off. Make you run PT. It was miserable. And then give you a discharge. Which I thought would never matter in my life because, having a dishonorable discharge. But that did matter. That came to matter.
It does. It comes around.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a lot more to talk about. That's just kind of opening the introduction of the book, and I'm just so excited for everyone to hear where this all goes. You rolled up in a bike because
on a bike.
I said in a bike.
That's right. See, when you get in, we call that a cage.
Gotcha. Okay. So and the whole office here shook, and that's cool.
That's right. Rolling Thunder, we call it.
I love it. And just I'm gonna say one name that you're gonna identify with later. It's called Broken Chains, and you are the leader of Broken Chains. So we want to hear a lot about that. Jeff Stultz is with me, and we got a lot to talk about. This is Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, and we'll deal with more in just a minute.
Coming out of the dark, I finally see the light now, and it's shining on me. Brother, let me be your shelter, never leave you all alone. I can be the one you call when you're low. Brother, let me be your fortress for the night winds are driving on. Be the one to light the way, bring you home.
You are listening to Dealing with Life. I'm very honored that you are here joining us, part of this conversation. Glad you're here. Prepare for a wild ride. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith. That's a book about life, about worry, through the perspective of a dog. Don't you love dogs? Everybody loves dogs. And dogs don't worry. I do. But as I watched my dog for years and years and having gone through some difficult times, I realized that our dogs, they just want to have fun. They just want to take in the blessings, and they just want to love. And that's what One Dog's Faith is all about. It's her perspective on watching us silly humans worry. It's available through Amazon. It's barnesandnoble.com, and also locally at Cedar Springs Bookstore, Long's Drug Store, Farragut Pharmacy, and more. In the studio with me today on Dealing with Life is Jeff Stultz. Man, I love your story. You've been on CBN. You have shared your story in many, many places, including Celebrate Recovery, which you're in town this
Glory
week.
to God, yes.
Yeah. And such a powerful story it is. Now, where we left off, for those who didn't have just joined us, you went AWOL from the Army and were in California in a biker
That's right.
club.
Biker club. That's right. You got that
I
right,
didn't say
brother.
gang.
You know, it's funny because later on we'll talk about how the difference in what I do now in not using that word, how important it is.
Okay.
So it's kind of crazy. There's a whole the politics of that world is you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or it could be really dangerous.
You'll expose yourself real fast.
That's right.
Okay, so catch us up. You
So
went
so I was out in California. You know, I turned myself in, got my discharge. Then I came back home to North Carolina where I could plug back into the group that I was already a member of.
Okay.
You know, I was running with the bike clubs out there, but it wasn't my club.
Okay.
So I
you
got
were
back
a
to
guest.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. So I got
Okay.
back to North Carolina, got plugged in, man.
And you were head of the club.
I was
Here in North Carolina.
I actually
North Carolina.
came back. I became the enforcer of the club, which is the guy that takes care of business, if you will. You know, let's
Okay.
leave it at that.
Okay.
And then worked my way up. You know, through that. You know, in the motorcycle clubs, the most worthless, the most ruthless, tough, mean, heartless guy is the guy that's going to be in charge. And so I worked really hard at being that guy.
Okay, you perfected that skill.
That's right. You know, I was abusive to my wife. I was not a good son, brother, husband, friend.
Yeah.
None of those things. The only people that mattered to me then were the other guys in the club.
Is what they
If you
thought
weren't
of you.
one of those guys, I didn't give a darn about you. And you know, those guys, their opinion of me and taking care of them as their leader
That's all that matters.
was all that mattered.
Wow. You walk into a bar with your guys, what would happen?
Well, the first thing I do is I slap a guy in the face and take his beer.
That's number one.
That's the first thing. So I'd let him. I'd establish that I'm here and I will hit you.
Okay.
And you know, and then I'd go about my business. You know that.
Wow.
That was the deal. So when I came up, you know, in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina, there were other motorcycle groups, and none of us got along. So
There was territory, maybe?
it was the whole town. So, you know, we were all infringing on each other's territory, basically.
Okay.
So anytime we saw another one of those guys at a bar or they saw us, it was on.
Wow.
So I grew up in a culture. I came up in the motorcycle club world in a culture that was all about violence.
Violence.
All about violence. I mean, it was just. In fact, years later, as I would move away from Fayetteville and see motorcycle clubs in other areas of the country that got along, I didn't understand that.
Yeah, that didn't make sense.
Because I thought the whole way of life for it was to fight all the time.
Yeah, and to make sure you don't get taken out.
Oh, that's right. So I've
Yeah.
been shot, I've been stabbed, I've been beat, you know, just.
Okay, so where did you go from there?
Well, I ended up in 1993. I met my second wife,
Okay.
and she had a 6-month-old daughter, and I fell in love with both of them. And I slowly became more responsible.
And maybe more allegiance to them than the club.
That's right. So I was. So when my daughter turned about 4 years old, I decided I was going to leave the club because I didn't want to die in some stupid bar fight, cause her to grow up without a dad.
Okay.
So I left the club on bad terms. You know, you don't just leave.
Yeah, I'm
like
sure that went over well.
So that didn't. But you know, I didn't really care, and I was meaner and tougher than anyone else
And
there.
they knew
so,
that.
So that you know we there were a couple of shootouts and things after that that ensued. But later on, you know, I kind of got away where they didn't know where I was.
Okay.
You know, and that kind of thing. But But I left the club. But here's the kicker: I didn't leave the lifestyle.
Oh, okay.
I continued the bar scene, the drinking, the drug, and the riding, the violence.
You just didn't do it as a
in
group.
club. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
right.
Wow. Okay.
So fast forward after a couple of years. Of course, my wife, she had enough. 2 years later, my daughter was about 6. My wife was just done. The infidelity, the violence, the uncertainty of what I was going to do or who I was going to be.
It's exciting for a second, and then it gets old.
Oh yeah,
on her side.
She was much younger than me, and it was exciting at first for her, but then.
Yeah.
So she filed for divorce. We split up, and shortly after that, I lost my sister to pancreatic cancer.
Oh no!
And that was in 2001.
Okay.
And when my sister died, I'll never forget. It was the first Christmas after my divorce. My sister had passed away. I wasn't going to have my daughter, and I wasn't going to have my
things were
sister.
changing. Yeah.
And so. I sent one of the guys who worked for me to go get us some cocaine that Christmas so we could party.
Well, you get over the pain.
And
get through
so
it.
he came back, and instead of powder cocaine, I don't know if you know the difference, he brought back crack. And I knew better than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to fire guys that I caught smoking crack.
Yeah, that's a different thing.
But, of course, I'm better than everybody else. I'm
Yeah.
smarter than everybody else.
Sure.
So I figured I could handle it.
Yeah.
So I started smoking crack that Christmas. And, man,
That took you down.
my whole life changed. I was instantly addicted to that stuff.
Wow. Yeah, that's I understand that's just it's hard to turn back from that.
Oh, it's insane. Insane. Wow. Recovery is so tough.
Wow. That's but all the pain that you were dealing with.
And that's it. I mean, I just kept, down the road I would come to realize that the drugs were never my problem. It was the pain that was my problem.
Right.
And I was trying to treat it with the drugs.
You were trying to numb it.
That's right.
Or escape it.
That's right. So I became a crack addict, man.
Where were you here?
I was in North Carolina.
Okay.
I actually had a place on Topsail Island, had a business. I owned a construction company. I ended up losing all of that.
Wow.
I borrowed and begged and stole from my parents until I put them in a bankruptcy.
Oh no.
Then I ended up moving to Nashville, Tennessee, and buying a bar.
Okay.
With an old girlfriend who inherited some money. And I'll give you some really good advice. All your listeners, never leave the rehab and buy a bar.
Oh man.
What a bonehead move.
Yeah, that's just, I have to drink because I own a bar.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I'd been in a rehab for a couple of months, and so I felt like I was cured from the crack addiction. It was okay to snort cocaine and drink and smoke marijuana.
Okay.
And all those other things.
Just get over the crack.
So, but of course, within 6 months, man, it led me down to one of the darkest paths I'd ever been on. The booze, the dope, the prostitutes, the gambling, the violence. It was everything that I loved.
Yeah.
And it was horrible.
And it just takes you into a darker and darker place.
As I went into that really dark place, God sent me a ray of light. And I mean literally a ray of light.
All right, explain.
And his name was Doc Ray. The one thing I never expected to find in the bar was a preacher.
Really? And okay, so you owned a Nashville bar.
That's right.
And a preacher walks in.
Preacher Doc Ray, and he would come in every night. And, he didn't preach to us. He didn't beat us over the head with a Bible.
Yeah.
He was just kind and caring. And he was always there in times of crisis, offering prayer and friendship. And he was just a great guy. Now, I wouldn't buy into any of his Jesus talk. I was way too smart for that. But obviously he cared about us, so we became friends. And thinking back, I probably used him a little bit because he was such a fixture in the biker community. I used him to draw people into my bar.
Okay.
And that's just the way it was.
Sure.
So, but after I don't think we had the bar quite a year, I was back on crack. And, man, I ran it all into the ground. I lost everything. Lost my girlfriend, Doc Ray, every decent person in my life. I ended up homeless.
Oh, my.
So I was homeless in the East Nashville area for about 3 years.
Goodness. Wow. Okay, we're going to put a bookmark right there.
Gotcha.
Because that's a turning point. Homeless for 3 years in Nashville. We want to start there in a second and understand where you went from there. This is Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker. Jeff Stultz from Fayetteville, North Carolina, who is not only a leader of Broken Chains, but also a leader of Celebrate Recovery. And you're a pastor in your church in Fayetteville?
Well, I am an ordained pastor, and I served as the campus pastor of a church for 4 years. But now I'm plugged into Freedom Biker Church, Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Wow.
And I'm basically an evangelist, so
Okay.
motorcycle missionary.
Nice. So we'll see how those two connect here in just a second. This is Dealing with Life.
And the story has only begun. And this is going to be the glorious unfolding. Just you wait and see, and you will be amazed. All I need is a miracle. All I need is you. All I need is a miracle. All I need is you.
You're listening to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, and in the studio with me, this has been so amazing so far, and we've just gotten to the power punch right here. Jeff Stultz is in the studio with me. Your testimony is amazing. You speak at Celebrate Recovery. In fact, you're a major part of Celebrate Recovery, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. And also an organization called Broken Chains. But we left last segment. We left you. You were homeless for 3 years in Nashville. You just lost a bar, and hooked on crack.
That's right.
Cooking, hooked on
That's
everything.
right. I was on the streets of actually Madison, Tennessee, which is a community in Nashville, you know.
Yeah.
And, in fact, in 2006, I went to jail over 30 times.
Oh my goodness.
So I was willing to do whatever it took to get high. You know, I wasn't one of those guys that begged for money in front of Walmart.
Right.
I was one of those guys that hit you in the head and take your purse or your wallet in front of Walmart.
Okay.
So, it was I was a ruthless guy.
Yeah.
So I went to jail in early 2007 on a probation violation. You see, because every time I got arrested and I got sentenced, I never showed up for a probation. I never did what I was supposed to do.
Of course.
So in early 2007, of course, my father enabled me. God bless him. It was all done out of love. But he bonded me out, you know, and I could lie to him and talk him into sending me money all the time.
Sure.
You know, in fact, I remember my mother telling me that she hoped one of us died soon, her or me, because she just
couldn't take
it, you know.
Yeah, that's hard to hear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So in early 2007, I went to jail, actually March 1st. I was in a dope neighborhood trying to buy some dope and got arrested. In fact, when I was arrested that day, I weighed 108 pounds. If you can see me right now, I certainly don't weigh 108. So I'm about 240 today.
Okay. So you were strong.
I was starving to death. I was dying. I had open sores all over my face and neck and arms. You can still see the white scars all over me. But going to jail that day, one of the best things ever happened to me in my life.
Yeah, that's hard to hear.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
hard to say, I'm sure.
Sure. But, so I sat in there a little over a month. I finally got out, and when I got out, my dad, again, had driven 550 miles to Nashville to
get you out.
To get me out and be there. And I remember he got me a place to live, a vehicle, some tools. I had nothing except the clothes I was wearing.
Yeah.
And I was just waiting for him to leave so I could get high, man. I just wanted him to leave so I could get high.
Oh, gosh.
But then I remember he did leave. And when he left, I thought, what if next time he's done? What if next time I walk out of jail and I don't have nobody to help me?
Yeah.
And I had what we call in recovery a moment of clarity. So I made a decision to quit getting high right then. But now I had to figure out how to do that. I didn't know how to live sober.
Yeah. That was that was part of your life.
That's it. So I tried to think of anybody I knew in Nashville didn't get high. Only one person I could think of. Doc Ray.
Doc Ray, the guy who sat in your bar.
That's right.
Who's a preacher?
He's a pastor.
Pastor.
So,
okay. And you guys became good friends.
That's right. So I called him. I looked up his number and I called him, and he invited me to church. And I'll never forget. I didn't especially want to go to church.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a weekly inconvenience where a bunch of holy people got together to talk about how good they were
and how
bad the rest of us were.
Yeah.
So
which is not true.
But I knew it. No,
places.
not. It really is not. And I learned that day.
Yeah.
I walked in. I was waiting for the judgment.
Yeah. The finger pointing.
But it never came.
Really?
Those people at Oak Hill Assembly of God in Nashville, Tennessee on Franklin Road were so special to me. They loved on me, and they accepted me. And I was different than all. There wasn't nobody else there looked like me. I had hair down to my waist, T-shirt, blue jeans.
Yeah.
But they loved on me. And so, I decided to come back the next week. And I had no idea what was in store for me that next week. But on April 22nd, 2007, I had an encounter with Jesus Christ, and my life was changed forever.
You found him.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
It was almost like he was on the pew tapping me on the shoulder, telling me, I'm tired of
been
waiting
there.
on you.
I'm coming after you. It's time.
I had a real encounter, and I'll never forget that day. And that's one of the things that helps my faith come so easily, because that day was so real for me. He was right there with me on the pew.
Wow.
And that was an incredible experience.
And that's something you never forget.
Oh, yeah, no, I'll never, ever forget it.
So I'm sure what goes through your mind, it's gone through mine many a time, is, okay, I've messed up big time. How in the world is he going to use that? One, why does he love me? But, okay, I get it. Now he loves me. But what can I do with it? What could you do with all of that?
Well, that's the beautiful thing I love about the ministry of Celebrate Recovery.
Yeah.
So a couple of weeks after my salvation, I met a couple people, and I was telling them, that I wanted to meet some other Christians and my age, the church folks I was around were a little older than me.
Yeah.
So they told me about this ministry they went to on Friday nights called Celebrate Recovery. So, I told them, Jesus has delivered me from my addiction. I don't need a recovery program.
There's a little more to it.
There's a little more to it.
You got to have people. You got to have people who love Jesus around you.
That's right.
To help you.
That's right. And so I went to Celebrate Recovery the following week. Man, I got plugged in. I found a sponsor who's kind of a spiritual mentor.
Okay.
I found accountability partners who are like teammates that kind of keep me accountable. I began to work the Christ-centered 12 steps. You know what? I realized the Lord had delivered me from the drug addiction. But man, there was so much more than to stop getting high. The 12 steps took me through a healing process, and they taught me how to handle this world as it is, not like I would have it.
You want to make it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So Celebrate Recovery gave purpose to my pain and the wreckage of my past.
Yeah.
So, Jesus Christ did through the ministry of Celebrate Recovery. Let me say that.
Yeah, he helped you find it.
So that the Celebrate Recovery ministry is really more than recovery. It's discipleship.
Yeah.
It's the greatest discipleship program I've come across. And so it leads to the cross. And it's 12 steps and 8 principles that make a quick path to the cross.
For anybody.
And there's healing at the cross. Yeah. I don't care if it's worry, anxiety, gambling, drugs, alcohol, relationships.
Anything that threatens to take us down.
That's right.
And to take us away from Christ.
That's right.
It pulls. And I'll say that all of the Celebrate Recovery services I've been to, some of the most powerful in my life.
Well, we like to say we're just a bunch of screwed up people that love Jesus. And
well, aren't we all?
That's right. But see, there's those of us that admit it and those of us that don't.
Exactly. Well, to me, Celebrate Recovery is filled with people who need church. There are a lot of people who, I want to go to church this week, but like you said, just where a bunch of people meet for a little while. But Celebrate Recovery is a service where people need Jesus.
I've heard it said that church is for people who are afraid of hell, and Jesus is for people who have been there.
I love that, and it's true.
That's right.
Yeah, if you found what hell feels like, Jesus will reach down and pull you out.
Oh yeah.
Goodness, what a great story. So now you found Celebrate Recovery, and you have found Jesus, and you have found a little bit of purpose for the pain you have. Where did you take that?
So I began. So I was in Nashville, Tennessee for about a year in recovery, in Christianity recovery. Okay. And Christmas that year. So that was 2000. So it was Christmas of 2007. My mother wanted to see me for the first time in 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And so I came back to North Carolina, and when she was convinced that I really was sober and
you were fixed.
You
were in repair.
I was better.
Yeah, in repair.
She asked me to move home. Oh. And, I can't tell you how grateful I am for that time as a sober Christian with my parents, finally being the son that God really intended me to be all along. I I was able to comfort my father during a long hospital stay, which ended with his death.
Okay.
But I was also able to pray with him to receive Christ before he died.
That's so awesome.
And then last year, 2016, I lost my mother. But, I was able to be there for 8 years.
Yeah, you were there.
And she could count on me.
Yeah.
And, I'll never forget the day she told me how proud she was of the man that I've become. My daughter, her mother died tragically while I was in my addiction.
Okay.
But now she has a father.
And you weren't there for her at that point.
No, but our relationship has been healed by Jesus Christ now. And she even brags about me being her daddy.
You would have never seen that coming.
Oh, no. No, actually, my beautiful wife kind of skipped over some stuff.
That's all right. It's only an hour show. I think you've got about a 10-hour program.
I met my wife at Celebrate Recovery. And,
Did you?
And my daughter showed up at our wedding. It was the first time I'd seen her in 6 years. And it was, so it's just been incredible. God has done amazing.
That's so unexpected, and it's so like God to take once you take the step toward Him, everything around your life just lights up.
Oh,
and
it's amazing.
And it doesn't matter where you've been.
That's right.
He can take all that crap and turn it into something that helps somebody else.
That's right.
And I know just from your story and the brief time we've had together that you focus your life on helping somebody else who's been where you were.
Glory to God.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what we're created for.
Yeah.
I love that about Celebrate Recovery. Who better to help a struggling warrior than someone who has victory over struggling with worry?
Yeah.
Who better to help a drug addict than someone who has victory over drug addiction? So Celebrate Recovery does that through gender specific, as issue specific as we can groups that meet. So
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and one struggle is no more important or more difficult than another.
Well, that's the thing, Tom. What I've come to realize, like I said earlier, my drug addiction wasn't my problem. So see, my drug addiction is how I was trying to treat my problem.
Yeah, that was
the deal is you and I can have the same struggle.
Yeah.
But you may deal with it through worry.
Totally different.
Or Joe may deal with it through pornography. Or Mary may deal with it through shopping.
Exactly.
So.
But all of them take you away from Jesus.
That's right. And it all could be the same hurt.
Yeah.
So.
But it's the shame and it's the pain that we try any desperate way we can to deal with it, and nothing works.
That's right.
Other than Christ.
And that's why I have a lot of people say, man, how can you tell about going AWOL and being abusive to your wife? Because it doesn't matter anymore. Because it's been brought out in the light.
Yeah.
And
now you use it for the good.
Yeah, I'm not proud of that, but I'm not ashamed anymore. I don't have to be ashamed anymore. He died, so I don't have to be ashamed.
And He loves you.
That's right.
And says, okay, all that happened. I can't change it, but let's do something good with it.
That's right. Don't matter about yesterday. What matters is today and tomorrow.
That's so awesome. We have just another short segment to come, and we'll talk about broken chains and a little more about Celebrate Recovery. Your story is just incredible. Thank you so much for sharing it and being the inspiration that you are to people all around you.
Thank you, Tom.
Jeff Stultz is with us. His amazing story. We'll hear in just a minute what Jeff is doing now. You'll love it. This is Dealing with Life. This is Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker. Nice to have you along. I hope you have found true inspiration out of the story of Jeff Stultz, who's been with me. Jeff, I want to glorify and I want to talk about what you do now as part of Celebrate Recovery. Tell me your involvement now.
Okay, well, about a year and a half ago, I told you that my mother had passed away. Well, I ended up bought a new Harley. I had put the biker lifestyle behind me through my sobriety and Christianity, But like I said, about a year and a half ago, God told me it was okay to be a biker.
You can
As long as I
enjoy
do it for
riding a
His
bike.
glory,
Yeah.
You know? So I got myself a new Harley. I ran into some other Celebrate Recovery biker types.
Okay.
And we began talking about starting a group. So in the following months, after July of 2016, we began this motorcycle group, and it's called Broken Chains.
Broken Chains.
We're a fellowship of bikers who have found hope and healing in Jesus Christ through the ministry of Celebrate Recovery, helping others to realize that change is possible.
So you use all the principles of Celebrate Recovery.
That's right. So we're like an evangelical tool for Celebrate Recovery.
Okay.
We get the word out. There are basically really two requirements for membership. One is that you're committed to the ministry of Celebrate Recovery.
Okay.
And two, that you continue to work on your own personal recovery.
Wow.
So
we all have to.
We all have to. That's right. So we started. We were an unofficial part of Celebrate Recovery. We weren't endorsed or anything. We just wanted to do that on our own.
Yeah.
And so in the last 14 months, we've grown to include over 400 members in 42 states, Canada, and Norway. And so just this last year at the summit in Saddleback, California, in Saddleback Church in Orange County, California, John Baker, the founder of Celebrate Recovery, announced that he was bringing Broken Chains in as the official biker arm of the Celebrate Recovery Ministry nationwide.
That is so.
And they brought me on the national team as the national director of Broken Chains.
You're the head of it.
Glory to God.
God, and you know that world so well. You lived it.
Well, that was one of the things. So that I wasn't the original guy that thought up starting this motorcycle group. There were a couple other guys, but as they invited me on a Facebook page that they had created, I began to see they didn't have experience in the other motorcycle world that I had.
Yeah.
And so I began to see that there was an opportunity for them to get themselves in a little bit of trouble, as well as anybody else that might join. So I was able to come in with my knowledge. See, God had prepared me.
Sure.
To do that and to steer this thing in a way that we wouldn't be in trouble. Like I said earlier, we're not a motorcycle club. See, people want to call us a club, but out there in the biker world, that's a no-no.
Wow.
We're not a club at all. We're not a motorcycle club. We're not a riding club. We're not even a motorcycle ministry because we already have a ministry, Celebrate Recovery.
Sure.
We're a fellowship of bikers.
Fellowship of Bikers.
That's right.
And you take the word out.
We take the word out. I travel the country. They call me the motorcycle missionary. And so in the last year, I've put over 26,000 miles on my motorcycle, traveling the country and sharing the good news that change is possible. And I'm telling you, I get to speak at Celebrate Recoveries. I get to preach at churches. But the most incredible part of what I do is when I meet a single mother at a gas pump and I'm able to pray with her. Or when I talk to the lady at the cash register in a convenience store and she's dealing with some stuff or he's dealing with some stuff.
You can tell.
And I ask them, is there anything I could pray with them about? And I leave them with one of the shop rags I showed you earlier.
Now tell me, I saw this rag and I want you to explain that real quick.
So we have a red shop rag. It's got the full version of the Serenity Prayer on it. A lot of people have heard the first 4 lines of the Serenity Prayer, but it's so much more.
Sure.
And so it has the full version of the Serenity Prayer printed on it. And so I hand that out to everybody I talk to or pray with. And I tell them, for the little message, use the rag. For the big message, use the prayer.
Use the prayer. How powerful. Jeff, it's just been amazing to meet you and to hear your story and to hear where God's taken you. Amazing. Jeff Stultz. With Broken Chains. You are the national
director.
Director of Broken Chains. Look at it, brokenchains.com, right?
BrokenChainsJC.com.
JC, Jesus Christ.
BrokenChainsJC.com. And if you want to check on my schedule and you get information about me personally, motorcyclemissionary.com is that website. And my calendar is on there that gives all the dates and addresses where I'm going to be at.
And you're speaking at a lot of Celebrate Recoveries around this area this week.
I am. I'm in Maryville at 2 tonight and tomorrow night. Then I'm in Newport, Tennessee Thursday night. Then I head over towards Nashville, Memphis. I'll go through Nashville. I got some connections there.
Yeah, I bet you do.
So I'm going to see some Broken Chains members. And Doc Ray, I'll be able to spend some time with him while I'm in Nashville.
Give him a hug for me.
You got it. Then I'm headed over to Arkansas. So I'll be at 4 Celebrate Recoveries in Arkansas
Praise God.
next week. And then they're having a one-day on Saturday the 7th. and then from there down to West Monroe, Louisiana.
How in the world did I fit in that schedule? That's awesome. Thanks
Glory
for
to
stopping
God.
down for a
He
second.
makes things work.
He does. Jeff Stultz, praise God, and I pray that you just continue blasting through the country with the message.
Say, I'm riding for Christ's sake.
That's awesome. Praise Jesus. This is Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, and we'll deal with life again at this very same time next week. God bless you.
You speak